In a bustling city, a man named Jerry enjoys a peaceful morning at home with his wife and 2 daughters. He shows deep affection for his family, especially when he chats with his youngest daughter, Connie, about her upcoming birthday while preparing breakfast. Although the news on TV mentions the possibility of a military emergency, Jerry doesn't pay it much attention, focusing instead on enjoying the moment with his loved ones. After breakfast, the family heads out to look for a birthday present for Connie. They get stuck in heavy traffic, but rather than grow frustrated, they entertain themselves by playing games. Suddenly, helicopters fill the sky, and the radio begins reporting global disasters. Still, Jerry remains unconcerned, until a police motorcycle zips past and breaks his side mirror. As he steps out to assess the damage, more officers appear, raising his suspicions. Then, without warning, a powerful explosion erupts behind them. Police urge Jerry to get back into his car, but before he can react, a large truck barrels down the road, crushing everything in its way, including the officer. Chaos breaks out immediately. Jerry drives his family away from the danger, following the truck's path. But their vehicle soon overturns. His daughters, instead of buckling up, hide under the seats in fear. As Jerry tries to reassure them, he crashes into an ambulance. With no one offering help and the public seemingly indifferent, the family escapes the wreck and flees into a panicked crowd. At this point, the true threat becomes obvious. Zombies have taken over the streets, mindless, violent, and terrifying. Jerry watches in horror as an infected man convulses for 12 seconds, then transforms into a zombie and attacks his own family. Desperate for safety, Jerry and his family stumble upon an abandoned RV and take shelter inside. Meanwhile, the zombie outbreak spreads rapidly across the city, plunging everything into chaos. The military tries to control the terrifying invasion, but they fail as the zombies flood the city streets. The military withdrawal leaves the survivors facing increasingly numerous zombies. In an effort to find a safer location, Jerry and his family leave the city. Suddenly, his eldest daughter Rachel suffers an asthma attack. While Karen searches for a breathing aid, Jerry's car stops, and he comforts their daughter. This young woman desperately needs help, so Jerry decides to find a pharmacy. At that moment, Jerry receives a call from his close friend Terry, who works for the United Nations. Jerry gives him their location details and asks him to take his family to a zombie-free location as soon as possible. He assures him that he will save them, but not in a self-centered way. Jerry doesn't know what initiative the UN is working on. While Terry searches for a helicopter, Jerry's family visits the nearest supermarket to buy food and a breathing aid for Rachel. They also take rifles from their vehicle. The supermarket is completely chaotic, with many people looting necessities to survive this zombie apocalypse. As Jerry and his daughter head to the pharmacy, Karen moves items from the shelves into the shopping basket. At the location, a heavily armed person intercepts Jerry and his daughter, but he quickly intervenes and provides the medicine Jerry needs. Just then, the man hears Connie, his youngest daughter, crying. An unknown man trying to steal Karen's belongings attacks them. During the shootout, Jerry confronts the robbers, ultimately saving his wife. In an instant, a law enforcement officer rushes into the supermarket. However, the police officer only cares about getting food and doesn't worry about gunfire or casualties. At this point, everyone is focused on their own interests. After running out of the supermarket, the family finds that their vehicle has been stolen. To avoid crowded and dangerous locations, they decide to flee towards high-rise buildings. Terry receives a phone call from Jerry, asking him to quickly pick them up from the rooftop of the apartment building. He can only send a helicopter in the morning because there is no possibility of evacuating the area at night. Outside, the zombie invasion continues. As the family fights them off, they retreat into the apartment entrance. Jerry meets a man who appears to have escaped zombies directly, which makes him wonder what makes the zombies so selective. But it's clear that the zombies have a strong interest in Jerry's family, and as a result, they attempt to break down the door leading to the entrance. As this family climbs the stairs to escape from zombies, suddenly Connie mysteriously disappears. Someone finds the girl standing at the entrance to an unknown residence. A group of survivors has expressed willingness to provide protection to Jerry's family upon hearing Connie's cries. They can communicate with each other without difficulty because their youngest son, Tommy, is fluent in English. Jerry's family is allowed to stay and receive food. A radio message is listened to by everyone. Then the message encourages people to stay indoors for several weeks, and finally they are told to lock down. When morning comes, Jerry wakes up and suggests to the good family to join them for an escape for survival. However, they reluctantly leave their home and refuse the advice. After that, Jerry's family is diligent in preparing to run to the roof, and then they start their journey. Initially, all of them went smoothly. However, when they approached the ladder, the zombies unexpectedly attacked them. The family reached the top of the building as quickly as possible, and Jerry protected them by removing the infected people. In one battle, a zombie spewed red liquid into Jerry's mouth. He worried that he too had been infected with the virus. So when he is on the rooftop, he quickly steps out, stands at the edge, and counts down 12 seconds to make sure he does not put his family in danger if he turns into a zombie. But it turns out Jerry is not infected and is still human. Karen uses a flare on the rooftop to signal the rescue helicopter. Tommy, the little boy, has joined Jerry's family after his parents unfortunately got bitten and turned into zombies. Jerry tries to fend off the approaching zombies while Karen and the children get ready to board the helicopter. A military soldier protects Jerry, and at the last moment, the family manages to escape the threat of the zombies. When there is no more threat, the helicopter transports Jerry to a ship in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. A large number of high-ranking officials and military members, along with their families, have gathered there. Jerry is given a bed close to others. Terry arrives and requests Jerry's help. The first thing he says is that their national government no longer functions, as their president has passed away. This problem seems to have spread all over the world, along with the lack of knowledge about the origin of the virus and resources to fight it. So, a large group of scientists works together to try to understand what is happening. A young virologist named Andrew is the only hope to save humanity. He believes that the scientists can study the virus and develop a vaccine to protect against it. But to achieve this, they must first identify the source of the virus. Currently, there is no communication with the South Korean base, and there is a possibility that the virus originated from there because there were discussions about early letters and records mentioning zombies. So they decide to send the young virologist Andrew to South Korea, but he cannot complete the mission alone. A high-ranking military commander approaches Jerry, knowing that Jerry serves as a leading expert for the United Nations and had previously worked for the organization. The military believes Jerry must accompany Andrew and assist in the investigation of the outbreak. Finally, Jerry understands why Terry actively participates in his and his family's evacuation. The commander reminds him that only a few selected people can stay on the ship due to limited capacity. So if Jerry refuses, the military official implies that they will relocate Jerry's family to shore if he does not accept the mission. Jerry informs his wife about the seriousness of the situation they face. He agrees to follow the orders as long as it gives his family a safe place and a chance for protection. This information shocks Karen. Jerry gives a satellite phone to his wife so she can contact him. He says goodbye to his family sincerely and assures them that he will return whenever he can. Jerry, Andrew, and a number of military members are the team assigned to save humanity. Each of them travels to South Korea by airplane. During the process, Jerry gives instructions to the young virologist on how to properly follow safety precautions. Meanwhile, Andrew expresses his belief that the procedures will work. He says that nature, and even its most terrifying creations, is something he admires. Nature longs for humans to solve the mysteries it offers, and viruses are often the harshest form of behavior. Jerry's flight crew begins landing to arrive at the base in South Korea. The plane must perform an emergency landing due to darkness and the lack of air traffic control below. Zombies unexpectedly greet the group as they exit the plane. This results in the deaths of several military members, including Andrew. The frightened scientist accidentally shoots himself with his own pistol, and finally, he dies. It is a very unfortunate event. The military facilitates Jerry's arrival at the base. They inform him that loud noises naturally attract zombies, and the only way to eliminate them is to burn them or shoot them in the head, a headshot. Jerry emphasizes that the pandemic affects the whole world and must be stopped. He then asks about the letter the military received from the base a few days ago, which mentions zombies. The base commander takes Jerry and identifies the burned room. In this place, the guards tried to restrain the first infected person on a bed, but they all got bitten, so the military had to burn them. And the first zombie to appear on the base was a military medical officer. Before he got sick, he went to a village to check on a strange patient who had been wounded. Neither the village patient nor anyone he interacted with is known. Jerry does not get a specific answer to his questions. So the hero is introduced to a former CIA employee who got caught smuggling weapons into North Korea. He may be a little crazy, considering he has undergone dental treatment. To stop the spread of zombies, the CIA agent claims that everyone living in North Korea had their teeth pulled out. This crazy man informs them that Israel have also found methods to deal with zombies. In the days leading up to the outbreak, they built a giant wall around Jerusalem. Since Israeli authorities seem to know about the outbreak before it happened, the CIA agent recommends that Jerry consult with the Israeli authorities. Jerry prepares to depart for Jerusalem and calls Karen to update her on the situation, but the call suddenly disconnects. Armed forces follow the hero as they leave the base to reach the aircraft. Some undead remain still, while others move slowly. But shortly after, Jerry receives a call from Karen, and the Ringone activates the zombies. Soon after, a fierce battle breaks out between humans and zombies. Only a few manage to get through. As they enter the cockpit, both the pilot and co-pilot lock themselves in. Jerry calls his wife again as they approach Jerusalem, but the conversation ends quickly. A nuclear explosion interrupts their talk, signaling that the zombie apocalypse is no joke. The pilot gets clearance to land in Jerusalem, and Jerry is invited to meet with the authorities as he approaches the city. An intelligence officer named Jurgen is the one who welcomes the hero. He tells that Israel intercepted transmissions from an Indian commander, which included information about battles with the undead. Based on that, all citizens set aside their differences and quickly build a wall together around Jerusalem. However, Jurgen is confused about the exact location where the first zombies appeared. Any place on the planet could be the origin. Given the fact that it is now crucial to save as many people as possible, Israel accepts the refugees who survive. The joyful celebration of the rescued refugees attracts the attention of the zombies behind the wall. When the zombies climb on top of one another at the wall, the refugees cheer in relief, thinking they are safe from the zombies. But the zombies manage to climb the wall by cooperating indirectly, then leap into the crowd, and eventually chaos begins. Even though a large number of people get infected, the military tries to stop them. The zombies already bite people, and the city falls into total anarchy. Compared to humans, zombies are much stronger and move much faster. Jurgen orders a soldier named Segan to take Jerry to safety after some time passes. Despite the soldier's efforts to find a secure location, the zombies keep moving forward, breaking through defenses at every point. Jerry then sees a young boy who appears disabled and looks resigned, but the zombies seem to lose interest in him. When the zombies rush toward him, Segan and the other soldiers bravely defend Jerry, but Segan soon suffers a bite to her arm. Hoping the virus hasn't spread through her body, Jerry decides to save the woman by amputating her arm, and finally, her arm gets cut off. Even though she doesn't turn into a zombie, she screams in pain. Jerry takes responsibility for her and helps her reach the airport. As their jet decides to escape, a Belarusian crew decides to stop the plane for Jerry. The flight crew struggles to decide where to take off due to the large number of passengers on board. At this point, escaping the zombies by air becomes the top priority. After a long wait, the jet finally departs from the ruined city. Jerry regains his composure and treats the wounds suffered by the brave Segan. With incredible courage, they survive everything. Suddenly, recent events flood his mind, and the whole picture starts to form. Those who suffer from serious illness or disability appear to be safe from the zombies. In haste, Jerry contacts Thierry and asks him to locate the nearest medical institution that produces vaccinations, then instructs the plane to head to that facility. After the call, Thierry instructs the pilot to fly to a research facility in a certain location. Meanwhile, a flight attendant makes a mistake and unlocks the cargo hold, allowing zombies to roam the area. At this point, the second cabin is in chaos, with many people affected. Jerry instructs the first-class passengers to remain quiet and block the aisles. But the strategy fails, and the zombies manage to enter the first-class cabin. It seems inevitable that everyone will eventually become infected. So Jerry decides to take action. The undead become the target of the grenade he steals from Segan, and he throws it at them. As a result, the plane's cabin collapses as the pressure drops, sucking out the zombies one by one. But for Jerry and Segan, they manage to hold onto their seats. However, the plane meets its final destination in a forest due to an emergency landing, and finally, the plane crashes. Jerry manages to survive, but he suffers critical injuries from the crash, and the impact destroys several cockpit components. At first, Jerry thinks Segan has died, but she turns out to still be alive. Fortunately, the jet crashes near their intended medical center. Segan arrives at the medical facility and helps the severely injured Jerry, but the man loses consciousness as soon as he reaches the gate and eventually passes out. At first, Terry believes Jerry survives, but at that moment, the military vessel realizes its attempts to communicate with Jerry's plane have failed. As a result, this development ends Jerry's family's stay on the ship. Jerry's family travels to an unknown location by helicopter. Terry takes responsibility for their safety, but he can do nothing to help his friend's family. Meanwhile, Jerry recovers from the surgery he undergoes. The medical staff at the facility are questioned by Jerry due to his lack of trust. His main concern is his family, and he insists that the medical staff contact the ship immediately. Terry answers the call and says he is a UN official, and he is seeking representatives who could benefit from any help in eradicating the zombie virus. He also admits that Jerry's family has been relocated to a refugee camp. The situation there is sometimes more dangerous than on the ship. This causes Jerry to be overwhelmed with anger, feeling that they don't understand the feeling of having a family. The medical facility's director reveals to Jerry that he also has a family, but for unknown reasons, they have turned into zombies. After that, Jerry decides to be more understanding and explains the reason for his visit to the facility. Jerry asks the medical staff to inject him with a potentially lethal but treatable virus. The man gets the impression that such camouflage could make a person invisible to zombies. This is, of course, not considered a form of treatment, but he wonders what would happen if a patient with such a severe illness actually manages to survive. The medical staff admit that Jerry might be right. In reality, zombie predators might not be interested in sick targets. If infecting soldiers with a conditionally safe virus proves effective, it would allow them to fight zombies without turning. As a result, everyone agrees to carry out the experiment. However, the virus samples are located far inside a special room completely filled with zombies. At this time, the facility contains around 80 zombies. After checking the layout, Jerry, Segan, and the medical director prepare to avoid the zombies inside the building. Wrapping their arms for protection and taking weapons, they proceed into the dangerous section. In an effort to avoid noise, the group heads carefully and thoughtfully toward the lab. When they see zombies appear to be sleeping, they stay silent and try to remain calm. Surveillance cameras allow the remaining medical staff to monitor them, but staying silent is impossible. The zombies soon detect them and begin chasing them. To block the zombies, the group has to split up. As Jerry heads to the lab, he manages to remove several obstacles. The facility director and Segan fight zombies simultaneously, but a large group of zombies forces them to retreat to a safer section. Now, Jerry finds himself alone. He finds the lab containing the dangerous viruses and enters it. On his way back to the other survivors, he takes a box full of viruses and plans a way to reach them. But in the end, he doesn't even know the specific cure he must inject to avoid his own death. Suddenly, one zombie appears at the laboratory entrance and shows no intention of leaving. There is only one way out for Jerry: to inject himself with a virus that might work. Even the doctors are not sure about the best way to inject the virus or whether it will work. Jerry also realizes this uncertainty, but he decides to inject himself randomly with the virus of his choice. Before doing this desperate act, he begs the medical staff to tell his family that he loves them. And finally, he injects the virus. Jerry observes the suffering zombie behind the glass for a while. With determination, he then opens the laboratory door. It turns out, the zombie doesn't bite him. Instead, it sniffs him and grits its teeth. Jerry's idea works, and finally, the man calmly walks past the zombie. On his way back to his friends, the entire horde of zombies ignores Jerry and walks past him. After some time, the man receives the vaccine for the virus he previously injected, and then he visits his family. They're all still alive and in very good health, and they wait for him at the beach. Jerry's actions offer humanity a new chance to unite and not remain divided as before. Researchers work to create a vaccine that protects against zombie bites, and every country formulates its own strategy to fight the disease by taking action. The movie ends with Jerry returning to his beloved family, and finally, he embraces them wholeheartedly. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notification so you don't miss the latest recaps. Thanks for watching and wish you good health.